Good morning, boys and girls, moms and dads, grandmas and grandpas, yeah, everybody that's out there. Welcome. Glad that you guys are here for another episode of Kidz Church. It's going to be an exciting time and a thrilling time. Here's our PowerPoint for this morning. Check this out. God wants me to care about others. He wants us to care. He wants us to be kind and caring. That's what we're going to talk about today is kindness, caring for one another. It's going to be a great time. Yes, it's song time. I'm excited. I know you are. I hope you are. Two familiar songs. They're kind of old hat. We're going to sing them together. So here we go. Get ready. Big and loud. Let's sing together, okay? Here we go. Sing with me. Here we go.
Come and go with me to my Father's house. Come and go with me to my Father's house. It's a big, big house with lots and lots of room. A big, big table with lots and lots of food.
Oh, yeah.
A big, big yard where we can play football. A big, big house. It's my Father's house. Come and go with me to my Father's house. Come and go with me to my Father's house. It's a big, big house with lots and lots of room. A big, big table with lots and lots of food. A big, big yard where we can play football. A big, big house. It's my Father's house.
Good job, boys and girls. One more song. Here we go. Sing big and
The
loud.
B-I-B-L-E. The B-I-B-L-E. The B-I-B-L-E. The B-I-B-L-E. The B-I-B-L-E. Yes, that's a book for me. I stand alone on the Word of God. The B-I-B-L-E. The B-I-B-L-E. I take it home with me. I read and pray, and then obey. The B-I-B-L-E. The B-I-B-L-E. The B-I-B-L-E. The B-I-B-L-E. The B-I-B-L-E. The B-I-B-L-E. Yes, that's a book for me. I stand alone on the Word of God. The B-I-B-L-E. The B-I-B-L-E. I take it home with me. I read and pray and then obey. The B-I-B-L-E. The B-I-B-L-E. The B-I-B-L-E. The B-I-B-L-E. The B-I-B-L-E.
Well done, boys and girls. Good job. Excellent, excellent job. Here's a great verse, boys and girls. Check out this fantastic verse found in the Bible. 1 Corinthians 16 and verse 14 says, let all, notice it doesn't say some, it says, let all that you do be done with love. Let all that you do be done with love. In other words, with kindness. The Bible talks about love and kindness. And that's how we're to live our lives. That we're to do all that we do with love and wrapped around kindness. That's the way that we're to live as a follower of Jesus Christ. Now, here's what we're going to do is we're going to listen to Dr. Doodad and the Doodad Gang. It's Radio Theater Presents. Again, I was growing up, we didn't have TV all the time, so we would listen to radio. We would put our thinking cap on, tie it on nice and tight, and listen and learn. Today, you're going to learn about the Doodad Gang, Dr. Deceiver, and Detective Doodad and kindness and love. So here it is. Check it out.
It's time again for another adventure with Detective Doodad and the Doodad Gang. When we last left the gang, they had uncovered Dr. D. Seaver's dishonest campaigning. The Techno City officials punished Dr. D. Seaver with 200 hours of community service. On top of his community service, Dr. D also had to deal with a broken leg he received when he fell off a ladder earlier. Because of all this, Dr. D. Seaver needs help with his own house. Let's join the Doodad Gang as they surprise Dr. D. Seaver with some much-needed help.
Okay, gang, let's give this place a new coat of paint.
What do you think Dr. Deceiver will say when he sees what we've done, Detective?
That's a good question, Tony. This might be the first time the good doctor may be speechless.
Now that Dr. Deceiver has been disqualified from the election for mayor, what do you think he will try to do next?
That is a hard question to answer, Tony. Maybe the good we are doing could influence him to turn his life around and do the same.
Didn't you go to school with Dr. Deceiver when you were both kids, Detective?
Yes, Kiona, we did.
Mindy Lee told me that Dr. Deceiver told her that he never knew his real father and that he grew up in countless foster homes.
I didn't know that. We were childhood friends, but the older I got, I developed new friendships and didn't keep up with him.
Did anything happen to Dr. Deceiver that caused him to get into trouble, Detective?
Why don't you ask me?
Dr. Deceiver, I didn't know you were here.
Yes, I live here. Perhaps the question I should ask is, why are you people here?
We knew you were having to do community service as punishment for your illegal campaigning. Plus, with a broken leg, we thought you could use some help fixing up your place.
Or could you be doing this to make me look even more helpless? I'm sure the Techno City officials are looking for more ways to praise and honor you, since you uncovered my, unconventional campaign methods. I can see the newspaper headline now. Detective Doodad and his gang of kids serve disgraced mayoral candidate.
Well, actually, Tony suggested we help serve you. And when we saw the poor condition of the outside of your house, we had the answer of how we could serve you. Obviously, in your condition, you couldn't paint your own house, and we could.
So, if I believe the reason you just gave me, the question is, why would you want to help me? I've done enough things to make you think I'm the last person you would want to help.
Jesus teaches us we should serve others. He didn't say to only serve those we would like to serve. Jesus served people who had him killed on the cross, so we don't think serving you is that bad.
The Doodad Gang exists to serve Techno City and help it be a safe and good place for people to live.
Why don't you stop all the bad things you do? You could use your ideas for good instead of evil.
I'll think about it. But anyway, thanks for painting my house. Do you do other things? I have a few problems inside. Come in here and I'll show you.
I'll make a list of the problems.
Dr. D. Seaver experienced being served by the Doodad Gang. Will it have a positive effect on him? Will the Doodad Gang convince Dr. D. Seaver to turn from his wrong ways, or will they have another evil encounter with the doctor? To find out the answers to these questions, join us again for the continuing saga of the Doodad Gang's adventures with Detective Doodad.
Wow, can you believe that? Talk about kindness. Talk about love. Talk about serving one another. That was amazing. There we go. Why am I here? One of the questions I hear a lot of from people is, why am I here? We have a purpose. God created us with a purpose in mind, and that purpose is to serve Him by serving other people. And we saw that with the Detective Doodad Gang by painting that house. See, we show love by serving one another. We show kindness. We show godliness. Together, when we serve, we honor God and we display kindness. Boys and girls, I think kindness is kind of missing in today's world. And as a Christian, a believer in God, we are commanded to love one another and to serve one another. It is very important. Now, we're going to talk about Ruth. And Ruth, through this whole passage in the book of Ruth. And here's my challenge. Read the whole book. We don't have time to read the entire book today on our lesson, but there's lots and lots of stuff in the book of Ruth. And there's one aspect on it we want to look at today, and that's kindness. Kindness. So let's take a look kind of where we're at. Ruth chapter 1 and verse 3. Let me give you a little bit of background in this passage right here. Amalek and Naomi, they were living in the land of Israel. And the word was out, there was a famine. So Amalek said, we got to get out of here and we're going to go to a different place. They went to the place called Moab. So let's check out what happens. Amalek, the husband of Naomi, died. Phew, that's a bad deal. And she was left with her 2 sons. So here's Amalek and the family. They travel many, many, many miles and kilometers of distance, and they landed up in Moab. And then he passes away. And Naomi is left with her 2 sons. Check this out. The sons took Moabite wives. Now, boys and girls, this is important. The land of Moabite, the Moabites, these were a pagan people, a pagan nation. They did not believe in the God of the Bible. They did not believe in the God who created this world, the universe. They did not believe in God, God Almighty, the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords. They worshiped other things and other people. So the sons took Moabite wives. I don't think that was the wisest thing to do, but they lived in Moab. Orpah and Ruth were their names. They lived there about 10 years. Okay, so there's a famine in Israel. They go to Moab. They're there 10 years. The father, he passes away. The 2 sons get a little bit older. They get married. They're there 10 years. And both their husbands, Orpah and Ruth, they died as well. Things are not going well for this family. I wonder if they had really asked God, talked to God, sought God, if this was a good decision or not. Well, we don't know that. But they made this decision. They traveled over there. They had a rough 10 years. Naomi was left without her 2 sons and without her husband. So she started out with 2 children, 2 sons, and those sons got married. They were a family of 4, and then mom and dad, so a family of 6. Next thing you know, 3 die. Now, all that's left are the 3 women. Let's see what happens here. Naomi arose with her daughter-in-laws to leave the country of Moab. Here's why. For she heard in the fields of Moab, while she was working in the fields of Moab, that the Lord had visited his people, the Israelites, and had given them food. So the famine was over. The Israelites are now prospering, and there was food there. Now, she's all by herself, right? She's all by herself, and she doesn't really know what to do because she is now becoming the breadwinner. Back in this culture, it was the husband that was to provide. And now there was no husband. Ruth didn't have a husband, Orpah didn't have a husband, and Naomi didn't have a husband. So Naomi, with her 2 daughter-in-laws, went on the way to return to the land of Judah, where they're from. But Naomi said to her daughter-in-laws, "Go, may the Lord deal kindly with you." Watch how nice she is to her daughter-in-laws with her words. "As you have dealt with the dead and with me." Verse 9. Then she kissed them, and they lifted up their voices, and they wept. Well, here's what Naomi said. You guys stay, you daughter-in-laws stay right here in Moab. You're young. You can find another husband. and you will be taken care of. Naomi's basically saying, I'm older, I can't help you, and I'm going to go back to my family. And the two daughter-in-laws, they had family there in Moab because they were Moabites. They had people there to take care of her. So Naomi says, hey, listen, you stay. And she speaks kindly to her daughter-in-laws. She kissed them, and they lift up their voices and they wept. Oh, this was not very good. The 10 years were not very good for them. Let's see what continues to happen. Naomi said, your sister-in-law has gone back to her people, one of them, and her gods, notice not the God of the Bible, return after your sister-in-law. But Ruth said, do not urge me to leave you or to return from following you. For where you go, I will go. Where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God my God. Where you die, I will die, and there will I be buried. May the Lord do so to me, and more also, if anything but death parts me from you. So what's going on here? Well, Naomi says, daughter-in-laws, stay in Moab. Find another husband to take care of you. Live your lives here. I'll go back. One stayed, Orpah. But Ruth said, no, I love you so much. You've been so kind to me. I will stay with you, and I will be with you. Kindness, kindness. And so she says, I want to stay with you forever. Notice this. Because of Naomi's testimony of loving the true God, her one daughter-in-law says, your people will be my people, and your God, my God. Naomi influenced Ruth so much that Ruth was turning towards the true God. Boys and girls, that's the way we are to live our lives, is to influence others, to live a godly, holy life, turn their lives towards the good Lord. Well, let's continue our story here. Ruth said to Naomi, let me go to the field and glean among the ears of grain after him in whose sight I shall find favor. And she said to her, go. So Ruth set out, went and gleaned in the field after the reapers, and she happened to come upon the part of the field belonging to Boaz. So they returned to the land of Judah, to Israel, and they needed to feed themselves. And Ruth was younger, and Ruth said, I'll go to the field, and I will glean. In other words, I will pick up what's left from the farmer as the farmer does the harvesting. Now it's interesting. They would have a square piece of land, and what the farmer would do is the farmer would come and he would circle along like this and collect all the food, and he would leave this little part right here. This was for the poor, this little corner. And if anybody needed food, if anybody was hungry, they were allowed to go there. They were called gleaners, and they would pick up the leftovers and pick up that grain so that they would have food. Let's talk a little bit about Boaz. Boys and girls, this is why it's important for you to read this whole passage. It's only about 5 or 6 pages, but it's a beautiful picture. Boaz was so kind. He just was kind to all kinds of people. Very kind to Naomi and extremely kind to Ruth. And so Boaz, because of his godliness and because he followed God and loved God, God blessed him and blessed him greatly. And he was a very wealthy man. And he had a large field and many servants. And so they went to Boaz and they worked in his field and they ate some of the food. They were able to feed themselves. Verse 11, Boaz answered her. Now notice this. Boaz actually noticed what Ruth was doing and noticed that Ruth was doing a good job. Boaz sees her and says, All that you have done for your mother-in-law since the death of your husband has been told to me. The Lord repay you for what you have done, and a full reward be given you by the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to take refuge. Then she said, I have found favor in your eyes, my Lord, for you have comforted me and spoken how? Kindly. Spoke kindly to your servant, though I am not one of your servants. So here's what's happening. So Boaz notices Ruth and notices the hard work, notices what she's doing, notices that she's been taking care of her mother-in-law. That's called kindness. That's called gentleness. That's called love. And Boaz hears about this. Now, boys and girls, when we're kind, we do things in love, word gets around. It will get around. And the Lord will bless you. And so here Boaz says, I'm going to bless you. And Boaz speaks kindly to Ruth. Now, boys and girls, there's a lot about Boaz in this passage. It continues and it shows how kind he is to Ruth and how kind he is to Naomi. Let me pause for a second. I think of kindness and I think of the shirt I'm wearing. You see the shirt I'm wearing? There was a man who was kind to me one time. And I noticed that he was wearing a shirt identical to this. And I said, I really like that shirt. That is an incredible shirt. And he goes, it is. He says, I am blessed. And I said, that's great. Did you know a week later, guess what I got? I got a gift. I got a gift of kindness. He gave me a shirt. Every time I put this shirt on, every time, I think of Robbie. Robbie, I know you're watching and I know you're listening. Thank you, Robbie. I think of you and I think of your kindness. Boys and girls, we're to be kind to one another. Like Robbie was kind to me. Like Boaz was kind to Ruth and to Naomi. And speaking about kindness, it is Father's Day. I hope that you're kind to your dad. It's important. I've got a little stick right here, and it's got a little message from a child on there, and it's been signed by his name, Angus. And this young boy gave me this as an encouragement. He wanted to show his kindness. He wanted to show his love. During Father's Day, you don't have to buy a lot of stuff. You can make something, make sure you put your name on it, and that means the world to any man. It'll mean the world to your dad. Now you might say, I don't have a dad. Well, God has put men into your life. It could be a grandpa, it could be an uncle, it's somebody. And pick that person and be kind to them and show them love by making them something on Father's Day. Here's our PowerPoint again. God wants me to care about others. How do we do that? Through showing kindness, by speaking kindness, by doing kind things, by loving people. It is very important. Let all that you do be done with love. We saw that with Boaz. We saw this with Robbie. Kindness is so important today. Will you be kind? I hope that you will be. Now let's go back to the workshop. The Power Tool team and a new one called Sabrina. Sabrina who saves the saw. Let's find out what happens right here. So they've got the workshop. Do you remember what his name is? Do you remember what it is? I think it's
Larry.
Larry the Level. Thank you very much. Larry the Level is his name. And Larry comes up to the workshop and check out what some of the tools have done. They've posted these signs. Girls, keep out. No girls allowed. No girls past this point. Now, boys and girls, should we be like that? Is that nice? Is that kindness? No, it is not very kind. So Larry the Level is not happy. We should be kind to everyone, regardless if they're a boy or a girl or who they are. We are to be kind, just like Christ is kind to us. Well, we have Sabrina the Saw. Is it the Saw? Sander? Sabrina the Sander. And you have Harry the Hacksaw, and then you have the monkey wrenches. They're making fun of Sabrina. Why? Because she's different, because she's a girl. Are we supposed to make fun of people? I don't think so. I don't think you can find anywhere in the Word of God where God, Jesus Christ, made fun of people. We're not to do that. That's not right. But they're making fun of Sabrina, right? Because she's a girl. So Sabrina, is she happy or is she upset? Well, she's upset. I would be too. And I've had people make fun of me, and I've heard it, and it's never gone well, and it hurts. So Sabrina was hurt. But watch Larry. Larry comes to her and comforts her and talks to her kindly. And that's the one thing that we can do, boys and girls, is speak kind words to one another, especially when we notice that they are hurting. Well, she gets going and she knows she's been created a purpose. She's Sabrina the Sander, and so she is sanding down all these blocks of wood, and she's doing a wonderful job because she's been created for that purpose. And boys and girls, we're created to be kind. And when we are, things go well. Well, you got Harry the Hacksaw over here, and he's messing around. He's not doing what he should be doing. And he starts playing with matches. Boys and girls, we should never play with matches. It never goes well. And as you can see, he has lit a fire inside the wood shop where there's lots of wood. So all of a sudden, everything takes off, and there's a huge fire. There's smoke. And Harry the Hacksaw, he's buried in here. Because with all the smoke and all the fire, the wood pile fell on him. And he's in trouble because he was messing around. Let's see what happens. Well, Sabrina the Sander comes in and she goes, I think I can help. I can get through all this wood and I can sand away all the stuff and get Harry the Hacksaw out. And she does. And she does it even though he's been mean to her and was nasty towards her. She chose to help, and she did. Well, all the other tools were pretty grateful that Sabrina the Sander was there. You better believe it. And here's how they showed their kindness and their gratefulness. They took all the signs, and where did they throw them? In the trash, where those signs belonged. So boys and girls, here's kind of the deal is she was kind to someone who wasn't very kind to her. And boys and girls, that's what we're to be. We're to show kindness towards others who may not be very kind to us, as well as showing kindness to those who are kind towards us. So Sabrina showed kindness, took care of business over there, and they gave her a great big badge that says hero, and it was all because she showed love to Harry the Hacksaw. Again, our PowerPoint. God wants me to care about others, and we can do that by being kind, speaking kindly, and by doing kind things to one another. Once you read that passage, you read the book of Ruth. Here's another challenge. Decide on what act of kindness you will do this week. How will you put into practice what you're learning? What kindness will you do? Will you do that? I hope mom and dad, boys and girls, you will meet this challenge. This has been a great time. I hope to see you next week. This has been wonderful. Bye-bye. No, I'm not God yet. I wouldn't forget to say what I'm supposed to say, what I should say, what I've been saying, and that is, everything will be okay. Everything will be okay.